So you need to change a lot of your code because your client or your boss needs it right away. And you will just do a quick workaround, a quick and dirty fix, because time is crucial, of course. And of course, you will come back to it and fix it properly later, right? It happens to everyone. But do you actually believe that one day you will just sit around without any tasks to do and you will just come back to fix something that is already working fine in production? Let's talk the theory and reality behind it. Also some tips on how to avoid these situations. But let's go outside and actually fix something while we talk. I will replace this speedometer on my wife's bike because she drove it too fast and it broke. Every time we quick fix something, we are by definition making some dirty workaround. Something we know is not the best practice, we know it's not that good, but quick if-else will please the client, and we are basically the only one who know about it. It's our little dirty secret. It doesn't hurt anyone, right? And of course we will fix it next time we are here because it needs to be fixed, right? The story about this problem was something that stuck with me. I heard it in one episode of Clean Code from Uncle Bob years ago, and he was talking about why these quick fixes are very problematic. I was involved in more than 200 projects, and I can certainly relate to this firsthand, as I've seen so many projects struggle with exactly this issue. And the point of what he talks about, and also what is happening in real life on almost every project, is that change of functionality and the change of requirement is imminent, especially in the web development where time to market needs to be quite fast. Change must be anticipated and be possible for that matter. But to be able to quickly change things, a lot of planning up front is needed and a lot of cleaning during development is required. So when you start writing an app of any sort, it's the best time of its lifetime. You have clean paper and you have some requirements and you make all the features and they all work from the start. You're super productive, everybody loves you, you make 90% of your app in 30% of the time it's expected. And life is great, you go home early and you watch some YouTube videos of motorcycle while working. But when requirements start to change and you go around and fix them all the time, and now you suddenly become a victim of your own success. You were so productive in the start and people are expecting you to implement these changes equally fast now as when you started the app. But you now have to rewrite a lot of code to implement some seemingly small changes because the original requirements were different. And after this happens for 10th time, you get a bit angry because you made things entirely different in the beginning and everybody was talking about something different. And instead of rewriting your app entire code again, you sort of start taking shortcuts to save time, promising yourself that you will fix them later. And you start making a lot of these delayed payments. You are basically borrowing your future time the same way you would borrow money from the bank. And it works, however, you know that you have to pay that back, and often with a lot of interest. And this is a valid thing to do, everybody has to do it, but not more than 1 or 2 times, because pretty soon you will be in so much debt that you will not be able to manage all these loans and all those interests. It's just not possible to make more time than there is. Now, usually clients or your boss, which is sort of like a client for you if you think about it, they will be in trouble as plans were made and deadlines were set, project was very close to the finish, and just some small testing and things need to be implemented. But you cannot get yourself together on the project because of all the debt you made. And even getting new people on the project doesn't help much, as they quickly start struggling with the code that is of course not documented and all those shortcuts that are now impossible to maintain. And also you have to spend a lot of time helping them and thus code and at the same time. So no one can basically help you because you kept all those shortcuts as a secret. They were never part of the plan, of the design, right? And if management starts to push you, or you start pushing yourself, working even harder, it doesn't get any easier. You will probably make even more mess because you are going to take more shortcuts now. And at one point you start thinking that it's maybe easier to make it all from the beginning rather than untangle everything that is now a fix on top of another fix. But even if you were to rewrite the entire app again, guess what would have happened eventually? You would be very productive in the beginning, but if you don't plan for a change and you don't write good quality code, you will end up in the same spot again. By the way, do you recognize the problem? Did it ever happen to you? Did you have a similar discussion with your boss or your client about the issue? Maybe this video is for some of them. Write me a comment about your experience with those shortcuts and subscribe while you are down there. So what can you do about it? Well, a good quality code is needed. And by good code, I mean code that's easy to change and maintain. Code that is decoupled and it follows good and proven industry industry standards and principles. Code that doesn't have duplicate, meaning that it's dry, it's easy to change. You have small portions of code that do one single thing rather than one functionality that spans over 400 lines and does majority of complex business logic. An entire application depends on that single function that you don't dare to touch. And unfortunately, a lot of applications have one of these functions, and those are usually the most important functions, but they start with a comment, do not change anything below this line. To have a good code, you need to refactor all the time, as soon as you see something has changed a lot. How to know when you need to refactor? Well, if you feel that some code is stopping you from changing it, then it's definitely a sign that you need to change it, you need to refactor it. A good IDE helps you a lot with this, and that's why some of the IDEs are worth their price, as they help you refactor very easily, rename and move the file, extract functionality, etc. The easier refactoring, the more often you will do it. That is why IntelliJ, for example, is a top-notch when it comes for refactoring and development. Also, knowing a bit advanced coding techniques is very important in order to keep your code clean. It is very important for your project, for your company, for your sleep and your career, because you are as good as your last project. That is why object-oriented design, design patterns and good debugging habits are very important. You can be a master of a certain language and framework or a certain library, but if you don't use it properly on a higher level, your code architecture is not anticipating for a change, you will struggle on larger projects regardless of how good you are with some code, with some library. That is why Laravel is very popular. Attention to details in that framework is just on its own level. Like, for example, that each comment has 3 lines and each line is 3 letters shorter than the previous one. You need to be very dedicated to write code like that. And that is why this YouTube channel is here, to talk to things beyond the basics of programming, like long-term planning, things that are beyond the programming languages and frameworks, or that shiniest new catchphrase that you should try in your next project. Because if you want to drive a car or a motorcycle faster, you need to train precision and control while driving slow. And then you just speed up to the point where your reflexes are being properly calibrated. But you need the basics in order to drive faster. It's very easy to drive fast like my wife does. But if you don't master the basics, you will drive fast only a short part of the road. So the only way to program fast is to take it slowly, plan it. Also to refactor your code all the time, to clean after yourself all the time after you are making some functionality, after you are doing something. Do not say to your boss that something is finished, but you just need some cleaning up in order to impress your boss by your speed. Instead, show him what you made, but insist that you will need more time to work on it, and spend a few hours cleaning after it. If you can ask your colleagues for a code review, or do a code review yourself, check if your code is to the high quality you think you are as a programmer. Does your code reflect that? Did you make it the best way you could, considering all the factors around you? Of course, none of us can write the perfect code. We all write things from time to time that we are ashamed of ourselves. However, if you are honest with yourself and you do not write a bad code on purpose, then you're on a good way to being the best in your class. Making a mistake is one thing. Misunderstanding requirements, it happens. Or even anticipating something due to the lack of experience or documentation, that is okay, it's not basically your fault. But intentionally writing something bad, knowing that it's a bad thing to do, it's a big no-no. You are then basically just being selfish. And we all know that sometimes you just have to borrow some time from the future. Sometimes you just have to fix it in order to save the company and reacting to some competitor or something. But by all means, be sure to repay your debt right away. Do not wait until it's too late. Do not say you will just fix it later. And there, fixed. Oh, come on. I forgot about this one. I will fix it later.